14 to 18, except for the fans, Second World War, so the woman served.
My goodness.
Complex, you know. I don't know what if any has ever realised when you're making a note of anything, would you ever hear anybody saying, log that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, logging came from the Belfast Poorhouse. What it was when kids got out and jumped over a wall and took themselves off, they tied a log to them, and it was put in the book as that child was logged to slow him down, and that's where the log book came. Sterling, who had 14-year-old, served during the Great War. And William was a sort of a biggish lad for his age. He lived around the Old Park area, and he had went over to Clifton Street to join the army, and was very nearly in it, only his mother got wind of what he was doing and went over and said, and got him caught on, and the recruiting sergeant promptly threw Ambrose out. Ambrose, being Ambrose, took a job in the district of doing papers and delivering messages and groceries, and eventually had enough money for the train fare to Dublin and joined up. And by the time his mother cottoned on to what was happening, he was away and all. He died in 1919, and it was said, be very careful when you're talking about the First World War. People tend to go 14, 18. It's 14, 19. 18 was an armistice. The peace was signed in 19. A lot of these guys died in 19, and they died as a result of the flu that swept through Europe at that time, which killed more people, killed far more people than the First World War did. Families were informed, particularly those families that had a Commonwealth war grave, as did they want anything else put onto the headstone. Well, this family obviously thinking about the man, you know, being moved, and they don't necessarily know exactly where he is, had that put on the headstone, buried near this spot. So that was their right to do that, but it gives you, anybody coming around the graveyard, the information that it's not exactly where the headstones is where you are. The other thing about it is, if you go over to France, or you go through the Somme battlefields, you go to the Commonwealth war graves, just because there's a headstone there doesn't necessarily mean to say that that body is under. I think the British buried them 12, 3, 3, 3, 3. The French buried them 15, 5, 5, 5. Two very prominent Shankill men, businessmen, Israel Milligan and William Sayers, got the wind up them about grave robbers. Now, grave robbers went into a grave for two reasons. One, because you might have this on you, or two, to sell your body to medical science in those days. Now, the trick was you needed to get in before 3 days, 4 days, or your body naturally starts just, and it was useless for science then. So William Sayers and Israel Milligan decided they would build a watch house. This is the actual, what remains of the walls of the watch house. And they employed a man to sit in here. And more or less, whenever you get planted, they watch over your grave for 2 or 3 days. Till such times as nature took its course and you were useless. And for that, the man would have been paid maybe half a crown. There would have been a day shift and a night shift. And they'd have swapped and round about. The other thing about in this part of the graveyard is, well, Marty, you're a brave and fit man, get up here. You weren't breaking anything on the way up.
All the stones on top of yourself.
Away over, see that gravestone there? Yeah. Away over and spell the word Shankill out on it. And the year, spell Shankill. What year? That cuts it to bed, ladies and gentlemen. It was an H in the Shankill. This is actually the latest part, ladies and gentlemen, of the graveyard, and it's sort of, you pardon the pun, the idea behind this was to breathe new life in their graveyard. And what they mean by that is, this is a fantastic historical area. Fantastic, unbelievable. But it has no connection today to the people. There's a break, you know what I mean? So what they were hoping for was, when they recreated this here, was you could go and somebody could pay for their granddad's name to go for Jimmy Jones, Pigeon Man, and then the year he was born and the year he died. Nothing more than that, not elaborate, or Tommy Smith, Soldier, whatever. But the idea was that maybe kids out there would see that and go, here, don't make it in there, my granddad's name's in there. But what I actually was doing was giving ownership of the graveyard back to the people. Come here, have your ashes cut, and you'll have your name in the graveyard. So the people are getting a modern day connection to the area. Gravestones are markers to a sectarian murder in Belfast. This is 1863. The man was John Murdoch. He was aged 17 years old. 1864, I beg your pardon. And he died of a gunshot wound. He received it while trying to save a fellow creature, whatever that means, you know. But where he died was on the bottom of the road, just about the end of Townsend Street, Jack, facing the Divis, which was called the Pound District then. And they were sort of fighting each other, having rats. And the poem is, when party spirit fiercely raged, an angry discord roamed abroad, our friend and brother who was shot down from earth, removed to face his God. John Murdoch. The guys who were involved in the shooting came to court on St Patrick's Day 1865 and were released due to lack of evidence. The Brethren of Scumber, Loyal Orange Laws, forthwith to the memory of their late worshipful master, William Crawford Williams, as a token of their esteem and respect and the excellent qualities of sterling worth. He died, and also his brother, who was a late Royal Artillery and Deputy Master. So that's the only one in the grave dedicated to Orange, as we know it today.
This is the grave of the Reverend Isaac Nelson, who was, as you'll see here, minister of Donegal Street Presbyterian Church, and he died on the 7th of March 1888. Nelson's quite a famous figure in his day, more as a controversialist. He was involved in anti-slavery or abolitionism, both here and over in Scotland and in England, trying to get American slavery abolished. But what he's most famous for is being the leading opponent of the 1859 revival. The interesting thing about him being the leading opponent of such a movement is that he was himself a very zealous evangelical minister. And if you go into Nelson Memorial Presbyterian Church, there's a bust of Isaac Nelson, and underneath there's a thing from Donegal Street Presbyterian inscription there saying, it's like written there in honour of our learned, upright and evangelical pastor. In fact, another ironic thing about him being buried here is he was actually a Home Rule MP in County Mayo from 1880 to 1885, although he wasn't a particularly good MP. He was very rarely in Parliament after about 1882. I think once he sort of got in with the Parnellites, he realised he was in with a bad crowd and wanted to get out of it. So,
where was the church? Where was Donegal Street Presbyterian Church? Whereabouts was that?
Probably opposite where St Anne's is now.
Probably right there.
Yeah. The lease expired after he had retired as the minister, and they moved up to Cliftonville Presbyterian Church. Yes.
This is the Bird family's burial plot, and it's in that plot, with the exception of Robert and his son, who are in the city cemetery. Nobody knows why, but the rest of the birds are all here. And if you go over to that there, you'll see a cap badge on it, and the cap badge is a skull and crossbones, and underneath, strapped between the bones, is Or Glory, and that gave birth to the most famous tattoo ever again, because people used to get skull, crossbones, death, or glory. Well, death, it was never part of their cap badge. That is Sergeant John Brown from the 17th Lancers, buried there, and his, well, in that position somewhere, the headstones are. His son, Captain John Brown, paid for it, and Sergeant John Brown charged that day at Balaclava. Now, we have a concert coming up on the 30th of June. The Light Cavalry is sending over their full regimental band, and I have asked for two of the boys to be in dress uniform to lay a wreath at Brown's grave. It was dedicated on Friday night, and it's actually to the people, the ordinary people of the Blitz. The reason why I heard it become like that there, they wanted nothing of any magnificent sort of look about it. They wanted the brick that had been used in building the little houses, and they wanted the black marble top and bottom to represent the darkest night. And it commemorates all three raids, but the 15th and the 16th was the heaviest in the Shankill.